All right, guys, we're back again. Dynamic Man Podcast, episode 34. And today we are talking about desire triggers for flings versus relationships. Now, this is going to be an important topic. I'm really happy that, as always, to have some good prompts for material on Twitter, or X as we call it now, because this is something I think a lot of the manosphere doesn't understand. Mostly because most of the manosphere, they kind of everybody's got their own little niche, their own little locus of focus. Let's put it that way. Locus of focus. That's an interesting turn of phrase. You see a lot of guys, for instance, who are single and they date in a certain way, and that's all that they do. They just date in that way. And then you have guys who are in relationships and they're trying to deal with that problem. Yours truly right here, Pat Stedman, is unique in the sense that I deal with both dating and relationships. I deal with the full spectrum of a man's experience with women, all the way from meeting and attracting at the very beginning to long-term relationships. So I can see how these things change over time, and I actually work with clients. Sometimes I'll have a client, I work with him on his dating life, get him a girlfriend, everything's great, right? Honeymoon phase. Year or two later, he contacts me, hey man, we're going through a rough patch. Let's jump back in. So I get a chance to see where he was in the beginning, what things worked in the beginning. I also get to see what happens later on. So before we continue into this stuff, just remember, as Gunn says here, like, comment, and subscribe. And by the way, guys, drop a comment in the chat. If you're around, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know you are here right now. Drop that comment. Drop that comment. I want to see it. I want to see it. And we'll get going on this stuff. So in my book, 3 Pillars of Attraction, that's interesting, a little honey in that rosé. In my book, The 3 Pillars of Attraction, which you can buy on Amazon, you can also get a PDF of it if you sign up for my list, patstedman.com/opt-in or /sign up. You get on my list, you get emails, exclusive content multiple times per week, but you get a free copy of this book. And this book is jam-packed with information, okay? It is under 100 pages. I don't remember exactly how many. It's well over 50, I think, but it's not less than 100. It's a small book. It's a small book. It is extremely dense. Extremely dense. I basically, in that book, I outlined like every single facet of attraction. It is like a comprehensive analysis of attraction and how it operates. So I really recommend you read it. You can buy it for $7, but you could get it on my list for free. Just join the list. patstedman.com/opt-in. Links in the bio. So one of the things I talk about, so the 3 pillars, right? You have pre-selection, persona, and personality, and they're kind of like concentric circles. Pre-selection is your passive value. They're the things that you don't have to actually do, but they just show that you are valuable, right, as a man. Then you have persona, which is your active value, and persona is like your game, and it's also your awareness, your social awareness. It's basically how you're able to position yourself in different environments, right? That's your active value. And then you have your personality, which is both distinct to you because you have your own personality. So some are going to like it, some won't. And then you also have the health and development of your personality. So are you at your highest expression? So everybody has a highest self, right? I always like to paraphrase Tolstoy from Anna Karenina when he says, all happy families are happy in the same way. All unhappy families are unhappy differently. And that's very true with anything, everything at the top. And, as we merge towards the center, towards unity, the higher up you go, the more similar you are. For instance, Myers-Briggs personality tests, right? People will be all obsessive about what type they are. Well, one of the things that's interesting is that the people who are like super, super certain and super obsessive about what their personality type are generally mentally unhealthy people, because their personality type is, the fact that it's so easy to diagnose, and the fact that it's so like, I wouldn't just say easy to diagnose, but the heavy identity on it and the way that they're easy to peg shows a constricted psyche. When somebody's actually of a healthy personality, they start to blur. They can think and they can feel. They can judge and they perceive. They can deal with, you know, physical environment and routines, but they also have intuitive insight. Their psyche is much more expanded rather than constricted. Okay. So this is digressive, but I'm saying it because, that's a relevant part of your personality. The healthier personality, the more appealing you're going to be to, well, more healthy people for sure, but you're able to be more appealing to people in general because you're less of a caricature, right? Okay. So in the way to look at this is also, is you could say pre-selection is marketing, persona sales, personality is your product, right? But within those sort of three pillars, we had desire and comfort. We've talked about desire and comfort before. And that is the main thing that we're going to be discussing here. You have desire, which is one half of attraction, comfort's the other half. So the question here, and this came from riffing off of a Yohami tweet, who's a great follow, by the way. I definitely recommend his content. He knows what he's talking about. The wives of the Beatles cheated. Social status means shit after the woman is in the social circle. And I commented on this. Fame is the most powerful desire trigger for casual hookups and the least powerful for committed relationships. It's a major reason you see so many celebrity relationships run hot and then blow up. So there's actually many reasons that they run hot and blow up. And a lot of that's because there's a lot of pressure and eyes on them. But it is a major reason, nevertheless, what I'm saying. I want you guys to think about this. Let's do a little Socratic method here. So you guys who are watching, drop in the chat why you think that fame and high social status are less relevant for a woman in a relationship than they're relevant for a woman who has casual hookups. I want to hear what you guys have to say in the chat. Drop a comment in the chat right now with the answer to this question. Why is fame and high social status, why is that more valuable to a woman for casual sex than it is to a woman in an intimate relationship? Okay. I'm gonna sit back here. I got to get at least one comment in this chat. So someone's got to jump on the grenade and do this. Otherwise, I'm just gonna turn this off. Then I'm gonna just sit here and drink my wine. I want students in this class say something. Why do you think? I'll repeat it one more time. Why do you think that women are more interested with guys who are in who have, I didn't say it right. I can't even say it right. Guys who have fame and social status. Why is that more appealing for casual sex than for a woman in a relationship? I got some troll here, which is amazing. I love it. Guns here saying envy from men, competition from other women. This is part of it. This is part of it, right? So let's go through first and let's talk about the different things that create desire. Right? Let's talk about the things that create desire. So you have with pre-selection what creates, and we're going to focus on that because when you get to desire, comfort, disparity with persona, what you're really dealing with then is you are dealing with different expressions of game, right? You're dealing with when is the time to be cocky, when is the time to be complimentary, right? You're dealing with more the dance back and forth of push and pull with persona. So we're just going to focus on pre-selection because he was talking about kind of intrinsic traits, right? So we have fame. Fame is attention. You can have fame in the big sense. Fame in the big sense is that, you're Brad Pitt, right? You're Jared Leto. People know who you are on a general sense. That's the most famous people. Donald Trump, obviously, most famous, right? Then you have the next thing, right? So fame is you can have fame in like a local area too, by the way. You can be the guy who performs at a local venue. In that environment, at that moment, in that context, you have fame, right? Then you have social status, right? We just call it status. Social status kind of has two expressions. One is that everybody knows you and they like you and you're vouched for. That is actually a little bit more on the comfort side of things. And then you have the social status that you're a leader, that you're somebody that sets things up that people look up to. That's more desire, right? So you have some people who are networkers, everybody knows them, not really leaders though. Both are good, but just important to understand the difference. From a desire standpoint, it's better to be the guy who runs the group than it is to be the guy who just knows everybody. Then you have money. Money is pretty much a comfort trait. It shows that you can provide. The only difference, the only time that money creates desire, really, I know this is hard for some guys to believe, but women are really not, they do not care about money. They don't even understand money. They like that you can do things. That's what they like. They like that you can do things. And money makes you be able to do things. But if you're a stingy person who doesn't spend your money, then it doesn't really, they're not going to have any desire, right? Women will only really desire men with money when they can do things. They can have experiences, they can just make stuff happen that's super, super amazing for them. That's when desire, and so as a result, you can have it contextually, right? You could be the guy at the local bars buying everyone drinks because you have, money in that context. That'll spike your desire, right? But it's the generosity, it's the flow of energy, it's the flow of the money that's actually important rather than the possessing of it. Everything else is just comfort. I can depend on him. And then you have looks, right? And that's a similar kind of thing. Looks are, you can make, I don't want to get too pedantic about this stuff. Looks are mostly desire. You could argue that, to some extent, a guy being big is comfort elements too, right? That maybe she feels like she's protected, but looks are mostly a desire factor. It kind of is both. Like, looks are great. They're kind of their own thing, right? They're kind of their own thing. It's good to have to be good looking. Okay, so we have these stack of things, right? So here's the issue with fame when it comes to a committed relationship. Fame, and then to a slightly lesser extent, high social status, like you're, like people look up to you in a group. This creates desire, but it creates desire, fame in particular. I really want to zero more in on fame than high social status, because high social status in a group is usually earned by other sort of masculine traits. Like, you're a leader, therefore that's why people look up to you. So I'm going to put that, Yohami said that. I understand what he really means. I'm going to put it aside though, because I think it becomes too confusing, because those guys tend to continue to be attractive because they act like a leader in general. Now, they might not act like a leader in their relationship. They might only act like a leader in a social context. So this stuff is certainly possible, but I just want to put that aside. Fame is a much clearer example here, because what is fame? Fame is attention. So the reason that women like men who are famous is simply because they have attention. So if you understand female desire, right? What do women want? Women want attention, which is another way of saying women want to be desired, especially by a desirable man. But women want attention. And so as a result, the most desirable man for a woman, off the rip, the man whose attention she's going to want the most, is the man who has the attention of everybody else, especially every other woman, right? This is where what Guns is saying is correct. Competition from other women is why, you know, they're seeing, everybody's looking at this guy. From like an esoteric perspective, that man on stage, and you can feel this if you've ever spoken on stage, you ever performed on stage, everybody's eyes are on you. Everybody's giving their energy to you. It is actually something you have to learn to manage. That's why people have stage fright. They can't actually handle the tension of being in that environment where they're receiving all this energy. So if you are somebody who can perform on stage, you're somebody who's famous, women are going to be interested in you because you are literally humming with the energy from all these other people who want you. Now, here's the issue, though. The issue is that it says absolutely nothing about you. So you're famous. It says very, very little about your own qualities. Now, you might be famous because you have a skill, and that might be attractive that you have a skill, but it says nothing about your actual intrinsic qualities, and certainly not your intrinsic qualities as a mate, as somebody to be with. The issue is that with pre-selection, this is the issue with pre-selection. And the only one that kind of gets a little bit of a pass with any desire trait that comes from pre-selection. Not exactly so much with looks, because looks are sort of, but yes, with looks too, just not to the same extent. Of all the pre-selection traits, right? Fame, you know, being liked by people, having social status, having money, and being good looking. Out of those four, the one that has the most staying power over time is looks. But even looks become a little less relevant for a woman over time, comparatively speaking. Lincoln's on the something here, saying that the high desire fades. There's no comfort to catch the fall. And guys, little Guns update here. We got to get some more likes going on here. This is free coaching. You guys are getting a really good. This is a really good. I'm breaking this down for you guys right now. So likes and comments, please. Drop it in the chat. Drop it on the channel if you're on YouTube. Let's bump this up in the algorithm. So, what is going to, and the reason for that, as Lincoln's saying here, is that the spike of desire is what catches a woman's attention, right? That's what makes her want you to begin with. But it becomes less valuable or less appreciated over time, to some extent, because anything that's very great kind of gets, you know, this is human nature. It's not just female nature. It's human nature that over time we tend to take for granted what we have. So there's some element of this, right? But with fame in particular, fame is not about the person. So you could have somebody on stage. I'm going to give you an example of this, actually. I just thought of an example. Hope this isn't libel, what I'm about to say. So I don't know if you guys know the band Goo Goo Dolls, like an alternative band from mostly the 2000s, but I think the 90s too. I really like the Goo Goo Dolls. I really like their music. Typical white boy. I like alternative rock, right? So I was at one of their concerts, and they were playing at a college, and I knew the people who were working the event backstage. And this guy, I mean, the lead singer, I don't know his name, and he came out, and he was, you know, obviously people were like, whoa, yeah, you know, like they're excited, right? He was getting all the benefits of fame. I could tell he was like a little fucked up, you know, like I mean that in the sense that he was definitely really inebriated or something. But you know, he's on stage, he's performing, it was a good concert. Okay. I found out like backstage he was a total asshole. I don't mean like that in an attractive sense. I mean like he was like puking everywhere. He just was like a retard. Like he was totally stupid. Totally stupid person. Now I get it, he was in a state. And I'm not trying to make some generalizations about his personality, but what I want to point out here is that this is a common thing, right? You see your celebrity, this person who's famous, and what you do is you project your image on them as you want them to be. That's why we don't like celebrities talking about politics, because we want to think of him as some character. We want to think of him as just somebody who creates this experience for us. We want our own fantasy of them. And that's why actually being a celebrity is a hard job, because nobody likes you for you. Nobody cares about who you are. You have to play to people's fantasy. And I think a lot of these people, they might like it in the beginning because they like the attention and the validation, but eventually it's like, I am just a prostitute. And that's, by the way, how we used to think about actors. We used to think actors were prostitutes. They were treated like prostitutes because they kind of are, to some extent. So fame, you have to think about this. Think about this as a woman. You're with this guy, he's a famous rock star, right? And all these women are all interested in him all the time. But you have to live with him. And you live with him not only is like, and you see that he's just a total degenerate. He barely has himself together. He's a crybaby. He's a mess. And so for her, she may start to develop contempt for him, right? His fame is completely because he has some talent or something, that some PR firm that makes him famous and gets him that attention. But as an individual, it's not reflected very much on his quality. Now that I'm not going to say that's always the case. Some people become organically famous because they're really good at something, and it doesn't say necessarily anything negative. They may have had to go through a lot of hardship to get there. But my point is that there's not necessarily a very strong or clear correlation between the two things. And in general, anything that a woman is attracted to because other women are attracted to you for it loses its value over time as she gets to know you better. I'll give you another example. Personally, I was very good with women, dating multiple women at the same time, no big deal, had it great. And they all liked me, everybody liked me. I get serious with my wife. As she gets to know me more, she sees like a lot of this addiction to validation, some of the stuff we talked about in some of the client archetype videos recently, right? Where there was this transition in the relationship. And part of what was happening, she went from being like super, super into me to being like angry and frustrated because I was not this guy who I had put myself out there as. Now, some of that was status stuff, social status stuff, but it was also, and it also had to do with some of the game, right? But the point is, there was an incongruence. So we're getting to the meat of the observation here. The meat of the observation is what creates desire in a relationship versus a fling is that which is most anchored and authentic within you. Let me repeat that again. That which creates desire in a relationship versus a fling is that which is most authentic and grounded within you. So the more developed you are as a man, the more desirable you are going to be. And this is stuff that is not necessarily as explicitly sexy, like keeping your word on a regular basis. Actually on a a lot of it is actually comfort things that amplify desire, because it's about her deeper trust in you over time. The more she trusts you allows her to surrender more into you. But a lot of what's going on is actually that she's like, what makes her continually desire you are the things that were not based on other people's impressions only. Right? So being good in bed is obviously going to be very helpful. That is something that, sex does comfort and desire, and certain variations of sex are going to be more desire focused rather than comfort focused. But A lot of people can create desire because they put on a performance, but if it's actually who they are, then it's more desirable. If you're the guy who goes out on who's like actually put together and you're super confident and you go out on stage, and then she's not going to be attracted to you because you're famous so much, right? The allure of the other women is going to the allure of the crowd is not going to be a major focus for her anymore because she knows you better than the crowd. So the crowd's opinion, understand this, when she doesn't know you, the crowd's opinion matters. It's like, oh, here's this new product that got released. I don't know anything about it, but everybody's buying it. Well, I guess I'll buy it. And then you buy it and it fucking sucks. It's trash. Well, and everybody, but you still are seeing like people who are like, yeah, I want to get the product too. I want to get it. And you're like, no, don't get it. It's bad. Right. You don't care what the crowd says after you've experienced it yourself. You only care when you haven't experienced it. But if you actually experienced it and it's great and it continues to be great, then you anchor more into it. So a lot of the things that make you actually good at being a man and good at being a man in a relationship, that's the stuff that matters for desire long term in a relationship. You can't hide anymore. You can't be performative anymore. Your product matters more than your pre-selection. That's why I went through the trouble of breaking down this entire thing beforehand, of going through, loosely the structure of the book, which I definitely go through because it's very detailed. But pre-selection is the marketing. You're doing these desire triggers for the marketing. Well, if someone's going to really enjoy the product, they have to know the marketing wasn't incongruent with the product. So it's the congruence that really matters. It's the congruence that keeps the desire going. It's really, what can you do for her? That's what it's about. What can you do for her? So everything that made you desirable in a casual hookup remains desirable in a relationship only if it wasn't performative. That is a takeaway right there. Only if it is not performative will it continue to create desire. She liked it from the very beginning and it's real. She is going to keep liking it. Appreciate that, Sid. Do you guys have any questions about this? Now's your opportunity to answer questions. I got 10 more minutes on this Dynamic Man podcast. If you guys have questions, drop it right now. Preferably on this topic, and I will answer it. And if I don't see any questions in the next minute, we'll close it out early. I think we're at a good point here, but I want to make sure that you guys understand exactly how important this is, because this is a bigger picture with the relationship in general. You are not going to be, you're not going to have a good time in a relationship if you're not willing to let, as Jordan Peterson, I'm not a fan of Jordan Peterson anymore. I think he's, cucked out, but he has some good ones, burn off the deadwood. It's absolutely correct. But that's what a relationship does. A relationship is supposed to do this kind of stuff. And the fact actually that a woman sees you for who you are, the fake stuff dies. She's always going to be attracted to what is most impactful to her. So that's how you treat her on a regular basis. Are you still the confident, charming guy to her? Are you still the guy who knows how to give her what she wants in bed to her, right? She doesn't care anymore if some other girl liked it or if you had a reputation. Think about that for a second. Let's say, I mean, it's kind of degenerate, but let's just say you had a reputation for being good in bed from a lot of women. But you're with her and you're not doing it for her. Is she going to be happy about that? No. Not going to care. Not going to care what they have to say. So I think you guys get the impression. I don't see any comments in the chat, so I think we're good. I think you guys get it. If you want to do well in a relationship, don't formulate your game on bullshit. Don't make yourself a fake attractive man. If you're just trying to get laid, like having casual sex, I got to be honest, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter that much. Most women, the vast majority of women, are not going to be able to pick up on it. The ones who do are only going to be able to pick up on it because they've been fooled before. And they're wise in some way. It's not typical. I mean, people talk about it in the manosphere and they're totally right to say it. Women really do have poor judgment when it comes to men. That said, men have poor judgment when it comes to women. I mean, let's not pretend for a second here. In terms of what makes them happy, let's put it that way. But women definitely are not picking men on a good basis. And yeah, that's all a major part of it. So yeah, a lot of guys in the manosphere will never graduate from casual hookups, and they will actually seek to have the most casual of casual hookups because there's ranges of casual sex or non-committed sex, right? They will seek to have. There's that guy Jay or whatever who I was like beefing with like maybe half a year ago. I could pick him out as a loser immediately because of the way that he was trying to have sex. This is a good thing for me to close on. I could pick out that he was a loser immediately because of the kind of game he ran. He was running a kind of game where it was like women had to come back. He would pick up the women absolutely cold on an app. They had to come directly to his apartment, and then he would never see him again. Now, some people will look at that and they'll be like, "Oh, he's so alpha. Look what he's doing. He's trying to screen out every other woman." Well, what kind of women is he trying to screen out? He's trying to screen out every woman that possibly would care to know who he is. That's what's actually happening here. You say you want to have casual sex. Well, if you actually like yourself and you actually think that you are a valuable person, doesn't mean you can't have casual sex. But it means like you don't have to be screening for women in that exact same way because you're pretty confident that, women are going to like you when they get, when they meet you and they know you, and you don't have to make it quite as transactional because you know that who you are, your product is good. So like you're maybe not trying to sell them on some renewal, but you know that they're going to taste your product, they're going to like it. Whereas the scammer is going to be like, no refunds. And by the way, you have to buy immediately this second. If you don't do it, you're never going to have another chance at it. That's what a scammer does. These guys are scammers. I never met this Jay guy. I don't want to meet him. I know about him. He's a fucking loser. Obviously has no contact with his family, has no friends, by himself, whatever. I haven't even, old news. But there's a guy I know, and I knew him actually personally, and he became a big person in the space later on. It's very interesting how we went out and gamed together a lot, and we were so different. We had a mutual friend in common, and that was the bridge. I did not like him, but I was just trying to learn game, and we had a mutual friend in common who was kind of like a bridge between the two of us. Like me being much more like I got to connect with a girl, him being much more like I just got to get the number at, I got to get the lay at all costs. And my friend who was kind of in the middle, right? Yeah, and we went different paths, and I know a lot about his life as a result of that mutual friend and other things. And I'm not going to name names, so don't ask. It doesn't matter. But this is somebody who was very, very like, brags about how he's had thousands of women. And it doesn't matter that a lot of that stuff is like scam stuff, I'm not saying he's fundamentally lying about that. There may have been a few prostitutes and a few trannies in there, but that's not what I'm really talking about here. He's mostly not lying about that. He gets those lays, but he gets like lays with the worst quality women, right? Fat women, drunk women, gutter game kind of stuff, just to move the number up. But the reason I'm saying this stuff, the point of why I'm saying it is because when you meet this person in person, and I was at a conference and he was at that conference, not the same year as me, but mutual friends met him, and they all said he was just the most insecure person. Couldn't maintain eye contact, was really, really nervous. And why was he nervous? Because now he was in an environment where people actually had to meet him and see him, and he was exposed to some extent, to some degree of scrutiny. They're fakes. They're fakes. So I could tell that that J guy, I can tell that somebody is by the kind of game they want to run, right? And there is, you know, I think to some extent a correlation. There's different phases of people's lives, but there's to some extent a correlation between men who want to go, the more superficial of a relationship they want with a woman, the less comfortable they are with themselves, because a relationship will make you face yourself. And that's just the truth. It's what it is. It's what it's meant to do. And that's actually why it's a great thing. And that's why you can gain so much from it. And in a relationship that makes you face yourself is something that, you know, that's how you keep things going for a long time. I think Guns, you got the right point here. Getting 2 to 3 quality women who are screaming for a relationship with a man like you is difficult. And that's absolutely true. That's that's a much higher level of game. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think that when you get to that point, you know, there's a level of real choice involved for you, right? You are certainly getting validation, but you're not necessarily doing it for that at that stage. You are doing it, you know, you're just getting what you want, and you're enjoying the women that you have, and you're enjoying them for who they are. You know, you're not afraid of being seen by them. And the paradox, of course, is that a man who is really willing to be open like that doesn't tend to have an issue getting multiple women, because he can make them all feel very comfortable with him, right? You know, women surrender more, they give themselves more to men who are more comfortable with themselves, because that makes them feel more comfortable with themselves. A man who can accept himself is able to accept a woman. Men who can't accept themselves tend to be much more judgmental of women. And judgment, I'm not saying that there's no place for judgment, right? With vetting and choosing, but judgment, it's worth noting, you judge a woman, you will absolutely make her, you know, contract. She's not going to surrender to you. So anyway, guys, good show. I will see you guys on Thursday for another Dynamic Man. We'll have COVID Cabal on Friday. And then I am filming the masterclass next week, updated version. That will be released mid-November. So October is your last chance to get the masterclass at the old price. After that, it's being taken offline, and the new one will be launched in mid-November at a higher price point. It's going to be amazing. Anybody who gets the current masterclass gets grandfathered into it. So the links are in the bio if you want to get that. But yeah, no shows. I might do a COVID Cabal on Thursday next week after filming's done, but no shows, and probably no Dynamic Man shows next week, because I'm going to be doing Dynamic Man shows for basically, you know, 8 hours a day, 3 days next week. So we're get ready for it. All right. Take care, guys. Have a great night.